Hello, everybody. How are you today? We are super excited that you're here today with us for the very first ever Tech and Learning Future Proofing Conference. I'm Kecia Ray, and I'm going to be here with you all day long. And I'm very, very excited to do so. Now, hopefully, you're somewhere across the country, maybe the world, and you are enjoying a cup of coffee like me. Da, da, da. Oh, you can't see it because of my virtual background. So I want you to get comfortable. I want you to enjoy our time together. And I want you to really, take your time sinking everything in. We're going to try to make it as interactive as possible. I've got obviously a presentation because that's what we do in COVID era, but I definitely want you to be able to interact as much as possible. There are over 100 people here, and that number might be growing. I'm not sure. You should have chat functionality. You definitely have Q&A functionality. So I'm going to be able to see what you're saying, and hopefully you can see what I got going on too. So we're going to make this informal and fun and informational. So without further ado, we've got Rachel in here. Say hey to Rachel, everybody. Hey, Rachel. We've got Marie in here. So they're my back-end tech support to make sure that I don't do anything crazy and to make sure we all are able to stay connected today. So let me take a sip of my coffee. Oh, good morning from Kentucky. Awesome. The Philippines. That's amazing. Yes. We have see, you've never heard a Southern accent like mine if you're from the Philippines. So we're really glad you're here. Connecticut's here. Maine's here. Cleveland's here. Yay. Texas. Tennessee. That's not fair. Vermont, New York. This is amazing. So go ahead. Let's use the chat. Let's keep it interactive. We're going to pretend like we're broadcasting live. Everybody gets to be a superstar today. So the name of this session is From Remote to Restart, Future-Proofing Your Plan. And what I want to do today is kind of give you a sense of what I'm seeing as I work with districts across the country and ministries of education across the world, and kind of what might be going on in education today. There's no doubt it's going to be different, right? There's no doubt it's going to be different. But it is going to be different in a way that we've probably never seen before, and in a way that will give us an opportunity to innovate more than we've ever really tried. I think the only thing that's going to hold us back this time is going to be us. So here's my little slide. I'm going to share my screen, and you're going to be able to see my notes. You're going to get copies of these, and you can use these for your professional development. I'll send them to you via PDF. So the formatting doesn't get all wonked up. That's what happened to me when I moved it from a Keynote to a PowerPoint slide. So I'll send these to you. And then if you need my help along the way, then I'm available to help you like I'm helping all the other districts. So we're all in this together, and I want everybody to feel that way by the end of this session. So one thing we can, first of all, let me ask you, can you see my screen well? Do I need to make it bigger? Is it okay for everybody? Give me a chat and let me see if you can see my screen. Okay, I know you're seeing the whole PowerPoint, but okay, good. All right, thank you, ma'am and sirs. So continuity of learning journey. I'm calling it this because my good friend Maria Scardo, who is in another room offering her amazing sessions, she really coined this phrase when she actually coined it years ago when they had a massive tornado in Miami and the schools had to adjust, and they didn't want to have learning affected because of that adjustment. So she created what she called a continuity of learning plan, and that allowed kids to kind of have consistency as they moved from, the struggles of surviving a hurricane to back into school. So Yes, this will be sent out. So we'll make sure. And you can always email me, Kecia Ray at K20 Connect, or you can find me on LinkedIn and I can get all of these details to you. So no worries there. So with the continuity of learning journey, you know, we've all started, everybody got into this mass remote effort in March. Some of us in early March. March 3rd is when the state of California was the first state that shut down in the United States and said everybody's going to stay at home, which meant the school district had to stay home too. And my good friends over there gave me a ring, and we worked out a plan. They had already done a yeoman's amount of work and just basically needed a guide on the side to help them think through some strategic stuff and some technical stuff. But one thing that we all have done over this course in time is we've all learned some kind of a learning management system. It's been Google, it's been a learning management system that you already have. Oh, wait a second. Monica's telling me if I set it up on slideshow and select browse. Okay, Monica, I'll fix that in my next session. Thank you. So we've been able to manage a learning management system. We've been able to adopt digital tools and expand ability to reach students. We've been able to identify and build new, rich content that we've never built before in an online environment. And most importantly, we've been able to learn how to do this, how to develop instruction in a synchronous way using video conferencing. So we have mastered a ton of skills around teaching with technology, and we've done it all in social isolation. So where we might typically have the opportunity to be in a faculty room or a faculty meeting or just in a hall with our colleagues and friends and kind of run things by them, in this instance, we haven't been able to do that at all. So in this instance, we've had to learn a lot on our own and in social isolation. And that is not an easy feat. And many of you have done it with children running around your feet. That's why I'm a little bit late this morning. I had to get my little baby in a car seat that my sweet husband couldn't figure out. We have done a lot of work in environments that we're not accustomed to working in. So my challenge to you now is you're ready to level up. You've mastered a lot of stuff and you've mastered it in short order. So what do you think of when I use the phrase blended learning? And we're going to do a little poll here, and I think my little friend Marie is going to help me with that poll. So Marie, can you bring that poll up? There it is. Okay, so tell me what you think of when I say blended learning. Give you a few seconds. All right, let's see what the results of that are. Marie, can you give us a show of what the results of that are? Oh, we still have people. Okay, 16% say it means flipping. 1% say it means the computer will do what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, and 83% say it means I can be more efficient at teaching because I use technology. Absolutely. Now, that can be technology integration, or it can be blended learning, right? There is a difference. Technology integration is really when we're using technology in any of its beautiful forms or fashion to teach and to learn. Blended learning is an instructional model that maximizes the use of technology, and it intricately includes the way that we look at data and the way that we set up our classrooms, and it's a little bit more sophisticated, if you will, than just technology integration. So, did you know that blended learning has actually been around since the 60s. In 1960, the first iteration of computer-mediated instruction came into being. And remember, at that time, we didn't have amazing screens like this. We didn't have a software interface that was very interactive. It was pretty much text on black or green backgrounds that you had to endure when you were looking at the computer. Now, nobody knew any better, but it wasn't as engaging as what we have access to today, pardon me. So, but nevertheless, it existed and people used it. And they used it with a teacher giving direct instruction and then telling them, now log into the computer and do what you need to do on the computer. It had response interaction, but it was obviously very minimal to what we had today. Fast forward to the 90s, and that is when we had the first phrase blended learning actually used. And this was used by or introduced by a company called Epic. And they actually referred to that phrase when they were talking about the use of asynchronous and synchronous instruction in online courses. So Epic was an online course company, and they would put these beautiful courses out for the time, and they began to introduce video conferencing. You know, fun fact, in this same year, Janzanitas, Camille Cole, and myself wrote a book, the first book to be written on K-12 using video conferencing. So it was really a new technology at that time, new in the fact that it had existed, but we've never really applied it this way, especially to teaching and learning. So Epic used that in their classes. They were adult courses, but we were starting to use it in K-12 too. Now in 2003, a friend of mine, Michael Horn, was doing a study. Well, Heather Staker was his graduate assistant at the time, and they were doing a study on different ways that they were trying to define a model. You know, at that time in the early 2000s, there's a lot of controversy, if you will, around, do we really need technology? Is it really important to have technology for the classroom? This has been a long time conversation, by the way, and I've been part of it most of my career. And he and Heather came up with this report called the InnoSight report. And in that report, some of the work that I actually was doing in Nashville was incorporated into that report because we were using technology to transform the district. We were using technology in a way that we could reach more kids, that we could extend the day, that we can engage more kids. And we redesigned whole classrooms and whole schools so that we could better utilize the technology. And by 2006, we had a blended learning handbook published, and that became a reference that explained the combination between face-to-face, like in-person face-to-face instruction, and online instruction. Okay. Now, Heather is an amazing person, and she is now the speaker for the model that they developed. And so I am going to share with you, I am going to have to put it on show, and I'm going to share with you this video that Heather has created that's a really amazing video. All right, you guys are my guinea pig audience, so I'm trying to follow Monica's directions. Here we go. Can you guys still see?
Blended learning is when brick and mortar schools provide online lessons for
Can you guys still see? Okay, perfect. Okay.
students. And because those lessons are online, students have some control over the time, place, path, and pace of their learning, so that rather than orienting around the chalkboard, we're delivering each student the right lesson at the right time. First, It allows us to personalize education for every student. Second, blended learning allows us to provide education opportunities that before were geographically out of reach for some students. Third, blended learning gives the system a way to control costs, to allow them to reallocate their budgets to higher priority areas. Blended learning also empowers teachers with new ways to meet the individual needs of each and every student in their classrooms. Blended learning allows students to rewind, revisit concepts, and fill in the gaps until they've truly mastered every concept before they move on to the next one. So often people ask me, what's the best model of blended learning? And the good news is that there is no single best model. We now have a variety of options in our toolkit. And the best leaders are those who reach into that toolkit and deploy innovations that meet the needs of each individual student and teacher and community. It's a powerful day and age to be involved in education.
Okay, everybody. And that is from an organization called Raise Your Hand Texas that's doing a tremendous amount of work in the space of blended learning in the state of Texas. Okay, Mon, you're gonna have to tell me if I'm doing this right. I love you guys so much for helping me get this going. Okay, so chances are you guys have participated in blended learning at some point in your careers, and you've probably taught with it at some point. So in the chat bot, tell me to what extent tell everybody to what extent you have been using blended learning. Like, are you doing the station rotation? Are you doing lab rotation? Tell me what you're doing. Put it in the chat box. And while you're doing that, I'm going to try to turn some music on. So Read 180 is a really good system. Come on, everybody. There's almost 200 people in here. Good deal. Oh, there's Joanna Lever. Yay! Love you. I saw Sandra Paul in there too. Good job. Oh yeah, I bet a lot of us have probably taken grad classes online in a blended fashion. Cindy, lab's good. I made a lot of academic progress with lab rotation in high school. Hey, Susan. How you doing, my friend? Ooh, Teams, Gypsy. That's awesome. Make sure you're sharing this with all attendees, my friends. Change it to all panelists and all attendees so everybody can see. We're all in this together. Let's share our journey. Good deal. Oh, Newsly, I want to know how that's going, Sandra. I love Discovery, though. Good deal. Nearpod. Mm-hmm. All right, good. Good to know, Sam. Oh, hey, Allie, how are you? My girl. Oh, hey, my friend. Hey, Katie. Oh, Seesaw, yeah. Allie uses Seesaw, too. Good deal. Okay, and I love that song. So thank you so much. So see, we have been doing a lot around blended learning. When we think about blended learning, the things that I like to talk about are content, which a lot of you put in the chat, all of the stuff around content. And a lot of you are putting, like with Teams and Google Classroom, WeVideo, around technology. Here's the thing about those two deals. In content, which you can decide which is the donut, which is the blueberry, I kind of think that technology is the donut because I love it so much, and content's the blueberry because I like it and I know I need to have it, but it has to be healthy. You have to have the right content and the right instructional design within that content in order for your students to adopt it and for them to like really get into it and use it. If you're not doing that, then your kids aren't going to use it. If you're teaching professional development, your teachers aren't going to use it. So you really have to think about the right digital content. The other component of selecting the right digital content, I've got a whole session on this later, and some of you may be in it, so I'm not gonna kill that presentation right now. But I will be talking about how that content is also a data collector. And so you've got to be cognizant of what kind of data that is being collected and how you're using that data to inform your instructional models. Now, technology is the donut because it's awesome, it's covered with sprinkles, there's a lot of variety. It's ideal to have a really comprehensive learning platform when you're delivering blended learning. Now, not everybody has that, and not everybody has time to get one in place right now. Even if you sprung into action with Google Classroom, there's a lot of stuff that you need that Google Classroom doesn't offer, and Google's real upfront about that. So you might need to work with some third-party providers, some supporters, to make sure that you have what you need in the technology realm to have the platform that you need. And again, I'm going to be talking in another session about what that platform entails and all of the things that you need for that. Oops. Okay. The pedagogy of blended learning, I'm sure all of you are familiar with this, but the pedagogy of blended learning is really grounded in the TPACK model. And the TPACK model, and like I said, I know most of you probably know this, so I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time, but the TPACK model is being familiar and aware and having really grounded knowledge around technology and the way we can use technology. So remember I said technology integration is a little different than blended learning, but the work that you've done in technology integration gives you the knowledge in the TPACK model for that. The content knowledge is what you come with, right? I was a science teacher, so that's my knowledge base, right? That I know content. When I teach teachers, my content is technology and how to teach learners and engage learners. And so that is what that's what we're grounded in when we go and get our degrees. So content knowledge. Pedagogical knowledge is how you use technology and how you apply that. How do you teach the content, applying the technology with your skill set for pedagogical knowledge. So TPACK model is, like I said, it looks like a lot of you guys are super familiar with it, but that model really is the model that you should be talking about with your teachers and faculty if you're going to move into blended learning. Now let's talk about the different models of blended. So there is a framework for blended. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Within the framework, there's a section that's called hybrid. And in the hybrid section, these models exist. And I see a little boo-boo because I moved it from Keynote to PowerPoint, not Friends. Station rotation is where, or the rotation model can be station rotation or lab rotation. Many of you noted that you were doing one or the other and some both. So that model is super, super beneficial to kids, especially exceptional ed, special ed, EL kids. Your special populations function really well in the rotation models. And the research, the limited research we have, also a session later, we see that there are benefits to rotation models for special populations. And basically what a rotation allows you to do is the best of breed. You can have small group instruction, you can have a computer-based, computer-mediated instruction, so you're going to have really rich, great, interactive, digital content, that's going to feed you data so you can inform your lesson planning for the next day when you're in your small group. So you get to work in small group with your kids, you get to give them some direct instruction one-on-one, and then you get to have them in a computer mediated instruction where they're getting a phrase that I use that some people are like, that's not a cool phrase, is double dip. So they get extra exposure to the content because of that computer mediated station. And then another station might be a manipulative station, and another station might be independent study. They get to pick their pleasure, right? Face-to-face is typically a teacher's favorite. Even when you do PD, you want to be face-to-face. And I'm calling face-to-face now, even this video conferencing, right? In today's era, this is as face-to-face as many of us can get. So face-to-face and moving and being in person, that is typically what we like to do as teachers. Virtual online is when students are totally in an online environment, right? And the teacher is checking on them. The teacher is kind of facilitating a little bit, but the students are very independently working through that model. Self-blend is typically when what we see in high school, when a kid decides they need to take an online class to make their credits for graduation. And then flex is really what we've been doing lately. We've been delivering our curriculum via digital platform, and teachers are available for consultation in real time, i.e. the synchronous element that we got going on right now. So if we've been thinking about a model that we've been probably operating in most of our districts, it's going to be the flex model. Now, this is a super busy screen, but it is a great example. Catherine Kennedy and team put this together years ago, but it's still really good today. And it's the dimensions in blended learning models. So if you look at the left side, you see you've got levels of instruction, time, role, online components, teacher role, student role, support, and then where they are in proximity to each other. All of this explains how you can have flexibility within these blended learning models. You can have, with regard to time, a fixed daily schedule where everybody, in some schools, there's a school in New Mexico, they're logging in at 8 o'clock in the morning, they're logging out at 3 o'clock at night. They're staying on their exact same schedule, fixed daily. Some are doing a modified schedule, so on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or for 2 hours a day. We're checking in real time. All the rest of the time, you're asynchronous, you're on your own. Or you can have, if you need me, this is like the office hour concept. If you need me, I've got my office hours turned on, I'm here. And if you don't need me, keep on keeping on. If I see that you're falling behind, then I'm gonna zap you and you're gonna have to come in and we're gonna have to do some real time stuff together. You can also look at the teacher's role here and what the student's doing. This complements the TIMS model, if you're familiar with that, really nicely in the application of TIMS to blended learning models. So it's a really good example of how we can have a lot of flexibility when we choose blended learning. Now, when Heather was talking in the video earlier, she talked about that movement between face-to-face and online, and this is an example of that. So face-to-face is, like I said, it's where a lot of us like to be, but online is where a lot of us have had to be. So face-to-face, when we think about what we're going to do next year and how we're going to come back to school next year, what that will look like, here's my suggestion. I would spend my time thinking about when we do get to be together, that we're going to focus on social emotional aspect of children and teachers. We're going to think about project-based learning, the things that we need to do when we're together in person. I'm going to prioritize for that time. The things that we can do online that I know because I've spent 10 weeks doing it, then we're going to send that online. And the things that need a healthy combination of both, these are going to be your STEM classes, by the way, then those are going to be face-to-face and online. And the face-to-face could be what we're doing right now, video conferencing, or it could be in person. I was talking to a school in Florida, and they are still rolling CTE classes. The kids are doing online. Then they're coming to their CTE labs, masked, gloved, 10 kids at a time, 6 feet apart, but they're doing the work. They didn't stop their CTE labs because of COVID. And in the great state of Florida, I guess they didn't have to. So that's really good that they were able to figure out how to manage the crisis to still keep and sustain the learning of the kids. A lot of those kids were still going to graduate this year, right? So they had to keep on keeping on so that they could graduate and have the credits they needed with CTE. So the movement between face-to-face and online is and can and should be very fluid. But in order to have that movement, you have to have a learning platform that can support it. So last fall, when teachers showed up to their buildings, they said, everybody get out your books, turn to page blank. This fall, what they need to be saying is, everybody log into Google Classroom, log into, name that LMS, and click on lesson 1. That consistency in structure and delivery of instruction when you're face-to-face and when they're online will give kids the normalcy that they need in their learning. That will happen for them. And even though we aren't sure what it's going to look like, if you prepare for that, then you're more prepared than you might have been last year. And I see some questions coming out. I'll leave some room at the end. So you guys, if you have questions, then put them in the Q&A. If you have just comments, put them in the chat. And I'll try to attend to all the questions at the end. Okay. So here, somebody's already put in chat, hey, I see enhanced hybrid. What the heck is that? Well, that is Kecia Ray taking liberties, because I have worked with, I've been working with 4 school districts since this whole business got started. And what I have learned in working with these 4 amazing school districts is the model and what I know about this model. So this is the Horn and Staker model. And what I know about this model, because I was working with them, remember those InnoSight reports informed this model. And some of my work was in the InnoSight report. So what I know from this model is this model was designed to attend to low performing schools needing to have more instructional time. And this was a way that we could make that happen, right? That's how this model came into being. And we use lab rotation, we use station rotation, I use flex, I created an enriched virtual school, and all of these things helped move my district at the time from a failing district when I was put in charge to take it over to a high performing district. Now, obviously there were 1,000 other things that we did, but we all talk about this work in blended, which became known blended while we were doing it, and how that really moved the needle for us. You see hybrid zone in gray, and that zone is where you're working in a face-to-face and an online environment. All the stuff over in the kind of olive color is just online, right? The reason I added the enhanced hybrid, I'm working with New York City Department of Ed Chief Academic Officer Linda Chen, who is amazing. She is such a phenomenal thought partner. I really, really, really enjoy working with her. And we got to thinking and talking about how what's missing in this model, and you see it in the research, is inclusion, right? It's how you attend to special populations. And in the remote environment, what everybody's been doing from March to now, they've had to think about that. Remember, this original blended framework was grounded in face-to-face and extended online. Now we have to think about this fluid movement between face-to-face and online. And in order to do that, you are going to be attending to your special population students. You have to attend to your special population students. I do a webinar every single week, many webinars every single week. But in all the webinars that I do, the number one question is, how do you take care of your special ed kids and how do you take care of your Yale kids? Well, it's challenging, but there is a way to do it. And a lot of districts have designed some really effective practices. We can't call them best practices because they haven't been researched yet. But I know the work that a lot of these districts are doing, and it's really innovative in the way that they're meeting the needs of their special populations. And a lot, for example, in both LA and New York, they're using telemedicine, speech, OT, PT, all tele. So there are ways to do it and attend to inclusion, but this enhanced hybrid really calls out that you have to do that in this model. It's not an option. It's also responsive. You have to attend to, first of all, you have to attend to the social and emotional needs of kids. You have to attend to the cultural diversity that you're experiencing, because now you're in kids' homes and different families feel different ways about this kind of an interaction. So you have to be responsive. You have to be respectful. There's a whole dimension of planning that needs to go into play when you're operating in what we've been operating in since March. So because you have that kind of responsiveness, and because you have this focus on inclusion, then it's very dynamic. It's much more dynamic than the original framework was laid out to be. So I'm throwing that out. I want your feedback in either the chat or you can send me a QA on it. But this is the first time that anybody has ever heard or seen this slide. And I want to get your input on this slide and this information. So stick it in the chat box. Now, what does blended learning look like? You have all talked about what blended learning looks like, but let me give you a quick show of what it looks like in a lot of different schools.
Blended learning combines online instruction with traditional schooling, where students have some control over when, how, and where they learn.
I just love doing computer because it's fun. I'm learning a lot in math and in writing.
With 35-year-olds and having 10 on computers and 10 doing work and 10 with teachers was really different, but I love it. Oh, what's the word? Team. Very good. This would be camp. It's really great, and you're able to take a group of 5 kids, differentiate it, make sure it's at their level, and get kids to learn the skills that they need to be independent readers by the end of kindergarten, which is just amazing to see.
Okay, hang on. Video's not showing. I'm going to stop share and reshare. I'm going to share just the video for right now.
How do you know that the sunlight does not touch the carrots?
We do what's called flip lessons. We have our classwork done at home and our homework done in class.
46.
I knew that there would be a chance to have a lot of small group time with kids, and that's something that I love.
A tanagram is many shapes that are put together in a way to create something, and it can be put together in any way. So it will print on cardboard.
So each month they take an assessment through iStation. As teachers, we're able to view those results as well and see where percentile ranking they are, see what areas they're struggling with.
To try to get Gigi, the penguin, back to his own iceberg. I'm so close, like this close. So you're not just getting Gigi to his iceberg, but at the same time, you're learning more math.
Okay. All right, let me stop share and go back to the PowerPoint. Probably gonna have to do this again because I'm gonna just do. Okay, my friends, can you see it? Do you see it? Do you see it? Okay. So you can see it looks very different in a lot of different classrooms. A lot of what you saw there were the rotation models, but it does look very different. And in a virtual school, when they refer to blended, it is, I've got like Joanna's on here, she runs virtual schools. I've got a full online program, but I've got to have them come in person every so often, could be once a week, could be twice a week, and I've got to have some touch points with the students. That is how you blend virtual. Oh man, is the screen still dark? Is the screen still black? Oh, that's because, sorry, I didn't open my thing. See, I need more coffee. So that's what a virtual looks like. So what does this mean for you? A lot of you have been putting in the chat what you're thinking about for next year. But go ahead and put in the chat some ideas. Make sure you have it to all panelists and attendees, but put in the chat what you're thinking, just right now off the gut, what you're thinking for next year. And be vulnerable. Be honest. I've been vulnerable. Be vulnerable, be honest. What are you thinking for next year? Share out, and I'm going to turn on some music. I know, Dave, it is overwhelming, but you've got a friend in me. Concerned about my teachers, yeah. Yep. Oh. Okay, is the screen still black? Can you see? Is it coming up? Okay, limiting the parent-facing apps. Okay. I can't get music to play, boys and girls, but I'll work on that between the next session. A lot of capacity building, yeah. I do think it's going to have to be a combination of face-to-face and online, and I think the more ready we are for that, the more steady we can keep our teachers and families. And I know that's a heavy lift between now and then, but I do believe that that is the way to do it. If you're in a district that doesn't have that infrastructure up yet, maybe what we can do is think about consortia, partnering with another district. Like I said, innovation, man, this is the time for that. I agree, Adrian, about the social emotional and more than ever, right? These poor kids, you know, an interesting statistic is the number of instances of child abuse has gone down, and in great reason, because teachers typically report child abuse, right? So the kids are at home with their abusers in some cases. So there going to be some special situations we're going to have to deal with when we see our kids again. Excellent. I know it's stressful. I know it's overwhelming. Like I said, you know, a lot of my work is supporting districts and working with them side by side, which I love, but, and I'm, you know, but we got to think about this in a whole new way. So there's a lot of conversation around Google Classroom. I do want to tell you, I'm going to be talking about in my some of my sessions later on the designing instruction, I'm going to be talking about learning platform, and we can have a lot more conversations around that in that session. So I don't know if any of you realize this, but I'm a past president of ISTE, the International Society for uh, technology and education. And Richard Collada is a very dear friend of mine. And I reached out to him, told him about this conference that we were doing today. He was super supportive and shared it with the ISTE members, which is awesome. But he's got an invitation for you. So I'm going to play his quick video, and I want you to listen to what his invitation is. It may solve some of your professional development challenges. Give me just a second.
Hi, my name is Richard Collada. I am the CEO of ISTE. Kecia, thank you for giving me the opportunity to join you today and for this great event, and really glad that everybody is able to be here. And also thanks for giving me just a minute to share with you a preview of coming attractions, something cool that we are doing at ISTE. For those of you who maybe don't know what ISTE is, we are a nonprofit organization, and our goal is, and has been for 40 years, is to help teachers use technology more effectively for teaching and learning. And so we do that in a variety of different ways. We have a certification program, we do events, we have a whole variety of resources that we provide. But as we have been talking to school leaders, to district leaders, to teachers, one of the things we hear over and over again was we did heroic efforts to transition to using technology for teaching and learning in a very short amount of time. And that got us through to the end of this school year. But as we look towards the fall, in almost every case, there's still some form of blended learning, even possibly online learning, and a whole variety of ways that technology is going to continue to be used for the foreseeable future. And one of the things that we've heard is that the quick getting up to speed, while it was helpful for the moment that we were in, as we think about long term, there's a greater level of depth that we need around this. We need to know how to do better collaboration in virtual spaces. We need to know how to do assessment that's authentic and awesome and not just multiple choice or uploading worksheets, right? We need to know how to handle special populations, students with special needs, English language learners in a virtual space. So at ISTE, we're creating what we're calling the Summer Learning Academy. And the Summer Learning Academy is a great opportunity for 2 weeks over the summer, starting in July, for teachers to come together and participate in 4 mini courses that are 2 hours each, and then listen to a whole bunch of the experts in learning with technology that we've curated, that we've pulled together from around the world, and then also have a chance to share best practices with all of the other educators going through this cohort. So it's a great experience, and would love to have you be able to join us this summer. It starts in July, and you can find out more information about it by going to summerlearningacademy.iste.org. And if you go there, you'll see some of our experts, you'll see more information about the courses, and you'll be able to register right there. So thanks again for having me join you for this great event, and really looking forward to seeing you and your colleagues and your friends on ISTE for our Summer Learning Academy coming up. Thanks so much.
All right, my good friend. Excellente. And I clearly need to do all my videos like I did that video. So without further ado, now it's going to play again. Here's all of my contact information. You can check out our website, and we put blogs up, we put information out. We're going to be building a community. We're going to be working with Tech and Learning to build that. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I do want to address, Gemma has asked the question before we quit, really quick before we go, and I know you've got like 1 second. Gemma has asked a question around screen time. The Center for Disease Control, CDC, has guidelines around screen time, and so do the American Pediatrics Association. What I have done is looked at each of those and combined them into a document that talks specifically about screen time. I don't really have that embedded into any of my sessions. So if you want that information on screen time, you can either email me or I'll blog about it over the weekend or next week so that you can have that information. And there's also a really great show screening out on a new documentary called Screened. And I'm working on a book. It's called Screen Time, and I'm working on a book called Screened. So there's a lot of stuff coming out on Screen Time, and I love being part of it. So thank you so much for being here, everybody. Move on to your next session. I've kept you over, as I normally do. grab a cup of coffee, go to the bathroom, and we'll see you back here in about 5-10 minutes. Take care, everybody.